My buddy has recently shown signs of severe alcoholism and self-destructive behavior. Before being quick to judge, my friend was a really good guy and a kind-hearted person before the addiction. This does not excuse any of his actions, but it explains why I still care to try and help him. To give some background, I have been friends with him since grade school and have kept in touch after he moved away for college. He dropped out after 1 year at the same university. Since getting home in 2020, he slowly started to show signs of drinking more and more. There was nothing concerning at that point. Fast forward a few years, and he meets an amazing girl, we will call her Angel, 24-year-old female, because she has been one, who seems to have calmed him down on his partying and drinking ways. After meeting her, I emphasized that I was always there for her, like I am for my buddy, and to call if she needed anything. Little did I know this would be a consistent portal into seeing a side of my friend I didn't know existed. One night, a few months ago, she called me in a panic, saying my friend was having a mental breakdown and was threatening unalived. He was taken to the mental hospital to be committed by her to make sure nothing would happen. After we talked, I found out it was because he was addicted to alcohol and she had been trying to get him off of it. He had been drinking until passing out and numbing all pain with liquor. He ended up calling me, admitting fault, and saying that he wanted to change and that he was sorry I had to see this side of him, an excuse I have become oh so familiar with. After being released, he did show signs of improvement, going to meetings and not drinking. I should add that around this time, I moved across the country and was no longer seeing him as much as I would like to. About a month ago, I got another call from Angel saying that my friend was back binge drinking. The reason for this call was that he had put his hands on her and after realizing what he had done, drank himself into unresponsiveness, pushing her after she took the bottle. I told her that she needed to get away from him and that she needed to take care of herself, as physical violence is never okay, no matter how drunk he is. Cue another hospital trip. This time, his family took him, and more excuses followed. This happened a few more times, excessive drinking with nothing physical, leading up to today, where Angel called and said she was done and didn't know what to do, as he got physical again, but it progressed to attempted choking. I immediately told her to seek safety and get away from him. We had a conversation on the phone about how she needed to leave and the statistics behind domestic violence, and now I'm stuck here, asking you, what do I do? This guy has been my friend my whole life, but is letting his addiction take over and turn him into an unrecognizable monster. Most people I would cut off for even threatening their partner, but I know it's the disease or addiction that is causing him to act this way. I also worry that if I cut him out, he will end up acting on his suicidal ideations. A few of his friends and I are having an intervention when I am in town next weekend, giving him an ultimatum: clean it up or lose everyone. To add, the point of this post is to help him stop the cycle of addiction to prevent any hurt or dangerous situations in the future. I believe he should be punished for his actions, but also that he needs to get help. Both can and will happen simultaneously. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Many U.S. states have involuntary commitment laws for substance use disorder. I'm not experienced or well-read on the matter, but I'm pretty sure you'd have to go through the legal system, meaning courts, to prove that involuntary commitment is appropriate, which you probably could, given that he has abused someone. The other possibility is to keep your distance, but call in a wellness check via police. If you are concerned about your friend's suicidal ideation, there is a chance he could be a candidate for involuntary inpatient care at a psychiatric hospital. Other than those two options, I would be wary of continuing this relationship further or getting too deeply involved in his potential treatment. Comment 2. If you're doing an intervention, please read up on how to properly do it and make sure everyone there is on the same page. There are ways to do an intervention that are more effective, and you probably aren't going to just know them without reading about it. But also, be prepared to walk away if it doesn't work. He may need to hit rock bottom before he makes a change, and his rock bottom may be very low. He'll only know when he gets there. You cannot save him from himself. Only he can do that. Now, for the update. 3 days after the intervention, I got a small group of friends together at a local diner to talk about what happened. I had been trying to get everyone's schedule to align since the intervention blew up. I had to listen to my friend vent about how bad my other friend's life choices were. And you know what? He wasn't wrong, but the timing. Really? We were at a diner, and I had just ordered pancakes. So shut up and let me eat my pancakes. Nobody's life was falling apart at that moment. And if it was, they shouldn't have been at a diner at 9 a.m. on a Saturday. My other friend was there too. So it was just all sorts of awkward. But finally, once we all settled in, I had to tell them what had happened at the intervention. And everyone was already in the know because I was texting my life story to my group chat, the day it happened. But still, me telling them in person made it feel, more real. So I started explaining how my friend had shown some signs of awareness before the meeting. He had been coming around to the fact that he had a problem. We had even had some deep talks about it in the days leading up to the intervention. So we decided to give him a couple of days to process everything. We had also decided to give him a little bit of time to process this whole thing. We weren't going to drop this on him and make him decide on the spot to go to rehab. He needed to think about it, and we needed to think about it too, for the sake of our health. So on the 5th day after the intervention, the friend called me unexpectedly. He sounded sober, which surprised everyone in the diner. We were all just shocked, So I agreed to meet him at the diner to talk, and I think everyone in the group knew what this was about. I think we all just had this feeling in our guts that things were going to get messy again. During the meeting, my friend admitted he was scared and needed help. I knew it. I was glad he was ready to admit that he needed help, but I just had this sinking feeling in my gut. He mentioned that he had started seeing a therapist and was considering rehab. At least he was seeing a therapist. That's a step in the right direction. So we agreed to meet again in a week to check in on his progress. And that's a big step for him. So I felt good about it. The following weekend, I hosted a small game night at my apartment. It's a tradition for me and my friends to have game nights every once in a while. It's actually a pretty big deal because we all have adult lives and full-time jobs. So for us to be able to sit down and play board games and stuff, it's just relaxing. A few close friends attended, including Angel, who had been quiet since leaving my friend. The atmosphere was tense as everyone was aware of the recent events. We were all just trying to find our way back to normal, It was hard to be in the same room as Angel and not feel the tension. You could cut it with a knife, for real. Midway through the game, Angel excused herself to take a call outside. I noticed her looking distressed when she returned. I knew she had been struggling since leaving him. So I quietly asked if everything was okay, and she revealed she had seen my friend out drinking. That's when I felt that feeling in my gut again. She said she was worried he wasn't truly committed to recovery. I agreed with her, but it was just so hard to tell. At the diner again, I confronted my friend about the drinking, so I set up a meeting with him at the diner to talk about it. I thought it'd be a neutral place for us to have a serious conversation. But I was also kind of hoping he'd have pancakes with me. Who doesn't like pancakes? He became defensive and insisted he was managing his urges. We weren't buying it. Tension rose as we argued over his actions and their impact on Angel. So I told him how worried we were about him, and that's when he accused me of not trusting him. Duh. That's why we're all sitting here having this conversation. I told him how I wasn't the only one who felt this way. Then he stormed out of the diner. So I just sat there for a minute. Did that really just happen? I wasn't even done with my eggs. I texted Angel, asking her to meet at a nearby coffee shop to discuss what happened. I just needed to vent to someone who understood how I was feeling. The next day, my friend showed up at my apartment unannounced. I could tell he had been drinking. He looked rough and admitted he had been drinking since our last meeting. I wasn't surprised. He reluctantly agreed to meet with a rehab counselor the following week. A few days later, at a family dinner, my parents brought up my friend's struggles. My mom just had to bring it up when my dad ordered a steak. She knew he was going to make a big deal about it, and he did. He was like, "There are plenty of fish in the sea," and I was like, "Dad, he's not even gay." The steak was good, though. My dad was right about one thing. The steak made everything better. So I explained the situation, wanting family support for my friend. I figured if my family got involved, they would be more inclined to help him. The parents offered to help with the rehab costs if he agreed to go. So I called my friend that evening to share the news about the family support. He was stoked. We agreed to discuss the rehab options together next week. I'm hoping that this time he actually goes through with it and takes the help he's being offered. I can feel the worry and the tension in my friend group, and honestly, it's exhausting. I want my friend to be okay, but I also need a break from feeling like I'm walking on eggshells all the time. I'm just ready for us to get back to our game nights without the drama and the stress. I know it's a lot to ask, but at this point, I'm just hoping for the best. Also, I read every comment, so please comment. Mini update. My friend went to rehab a week later, thanks to family support. It's early, but we're all hopeful for a change. Am I the idiot for refusing to bail out my brother after his third DUI and watching my parents drain their savings instead? Brother just got his third DUI, a felony in my state, which will lead to prison and him losing his license for 8 years, about 3 months after getting kicked out of the house he shares with his ex-girlfriend and the mother of his 2 kids. He can't go back because she got a restraining order on him, and he went to a psych ward for a couple of weeks. My parents have taken him in since he got out. He doesn't pay his bills, including the mortgage, bills to the supply company he gets supplies from for his work as an independent contractor, or really anything else. Now with this new DUI from a few days ago, he's unable to drive himself anywhere, so I'm not sure if he's going to be able to do any work at all. But he was spending all his nights out at bars, getting back at 1 to 3 in the morning, and spending his money on alcohol, cigarettes, gambling, and drugs, so it may be for the best. His 2 children and my parents are the ones I'm worried about. My parents have been paying for his kids to go to preschool and after-school programs since the mother of his children, who recently started working full-time, refuses to contribute to any of the bills. Now, my parents have paid $5,000 recently for his legal issues with her, and there's the upcoming court case for the DUI that's probably going to cost more for them since he doesn't have 2 nickels to rub together. It's also unclear what's going to happen to his house since the mother of his children isn't going to contribute to the mortgage. My father is planning on getting a part-time job driving a bus around so he can support my brother's family. It's frustrating that my brother is doing this to my family, and he's so weak mentally that I cannot have a conversation with him about it where I tell him the truth and he actually considers it. I work remotely in finance, making around $200,000 and saving regularly, focused on advancing my career, so I'm comfortable and have been planning to move back for a few months before I move again, mainly so I can be in the area to ski. So my main hope has been that he'd be in prison by the time I got back, so I don't have to see him because he'd probably be around a lot if he isn't in prison. Some other highlights about my brother. He got brought home in 6th grade by the police for marijuana, and thereafter became a regular user of that and other drugs. He visited me once since I moved out for college when I was 18. He's cost my parents around $150,000 over the past 5 to 10 years, and I've given him maybe $30,000. He got a tattoo of a dragon on his chest for some reason. He had a motorcycle accident and messed up his knee and refused to get it fixed. He stabbed himself in the thigh with a switchblade while drunk. He had a loaded gun stolen out of his car, which was unlocked, and subsequently had his gun license and other guns taken away. He has always had a thing for the trashiest women imaginable. He signed half his house over to the mother of his children for some reason, but mostly so he could keep her and his kids around. He refuses to take his bipolar medications consistently. He consistently surrounds himself with negative people. He had been driving drunk with his kids in the car. He'll be dead before 60 from smoking, drinking, and obesity. He wastes a ton of money on frivolous things and saves absolutely nothing for his own future. He is exposing his kids to his poor behaviors, which very well may lead to their own negativity in the future. He didn't plan how he'd take care of them. So my parents have babysat them for years, paying for their activities in preschool, taking away their ability to spend their retirement years traveling and doing what they would like. One time, after I'd helped him with a serious bill, which would have made it so he couldn't work if it wasn't paid, he had the nerve to ask if I wanted to split the cost of a $600 pair of earrings for his 7-year-old daughter as a way to get back at the mother of his children. The only good things here are that my parents receive regular pensions from their work, their house is paid off, and they have around $500,000 saved up on the side, so they're going to be fine. But he's really damaging our family. Hopefully, my brother just changes his behavior. Or if not, dies of cancer from all his smoking and alcohol abuse, so no one has to deal with his issues anymore. Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Yes, your brother is making terrible decisions, but so are your parents. Nobody is forcing them to help. They are choosing to do so. Now you may say, but how can they turn their back on their son and grandkids? And I would say that not enabling people like your brother is not turning your back on them. It's holding them accountable for their actions. And that means facing the full consequences. People like your brother often never change, and that increases when they never have to live with the full consequences. As to the grandkids, they should be going through child protective services if the mom isn't taking care of them properly. They could possibly be able to foster them, likely without the brother, and help in that way. Instead, they are applying a band-aid to a severed limb. Also, you don't get a restraining order against you for no reason. Your parents need to face the reality of who their son has turned out to be. You can't make them, though. And honestly, you putting all blame and ownership on your brother instead of recognizing your parents are actively choosing to help tells me that the whole family doesn't have a healthy dynamic and has likely been this way your entire life. Comment 2. Here is my advice. The kids are the ones who are blameless in this. Everyone else is behaving poorly. I think it would be reasonable and admirable to work out an amount per year, or one bill, that you pay for the kids. Have your parents send that bill to you directly, pay it, and otherwise wash your hands of the situation. I'd also recommend spending some time with the kids when you're in town. They have terrible parents and are going to need all the stability you can provide. And do not let the money go through your parents. They are enabling your brother. Now for the update. I just had the most infuriating family dinner with my brother. And I can't believe we are still dealing with this mess. It's been about a month since the whole DUI drama started, and things have gone from bad to worse. Now he's possibly facing 6 months in jail after his court hearing. 6 months. My parents are already super stressed, and now they have the added pressure of his ex-wife filing for child support. Like, what is she expecting? His paycheck after he gets out of jail? My parents are considering having a family meeting to discuss the future. As they so nicely put it, I can already see what's coming. Another round of financial support for the black hole that is my brother. They scheduled the family dinner at their house this weekend, and I was already dreading it. But then I found out that the brother had been avoiding conversations about his situation. So he knows what he has to do, but he's just hoping we all forget about it. Typical. He finally showed up late to the family dinner, looking like a hot mess. It was obvious he was drunk, and he couldn't even be bothered to apologize for being late. The atmosphere was so awkward and tense, with everyone trying to avoid the obvious issue. I was just sitting there, watching him play the victim, while my parents tried to express their concerns. All he did was make jokes about his situation, which just annoyed the hell out of me. My mom tried to talk to him about his behavior, and he immediately started shouting, claiming everyone was against him. This guy just can't take any responsibility, can he? I tried to speak up for my parents, but he just kept interrupting me. My younger sister, Kate, tried to mediate the situation, but that just made things worse. Eventually, the brother stormed out of the house, slamming the door behind him. My parents looked so upset and worried about what he was going to do next. A few days later, he showed up at their house unannounced. This time, he claimed he needed money for his legal fees, but refused to take any responsibility for his situation. My parents reluctantly gave him $1,000, even though they are already struggling financially. It's like they just can't say no to him. Then, a week later, I hear from a family friend that my brother was arrested again for public intoxication. I couldn't believe it. I had to find out about his latest screw-up from someone else. His ex-wife contacted me, expressing her frustration with him. She was just as fed up as I was. She's probably wondering why she has to deal with this mess too. The parents finally decided to cut off financial support for my brother, and that led to even more tension. He threatened to take legal action against them for support. Can you imagine? The kids are the ones getting hurt in all this. Their dad is a complete no-show, and it's affecting them. I went to a family gathering a few days ago, and I overheard some relatives discussing the chaos. They were talking about how my brother's behavior has become a topic of conversation among family members. I can't believe how far he's fallen. The other day, he sent me a desperate message asking for forgiveness. It was such a load of crap. He was just trying to play the victim again. I decided it was time to confront him directly about his choices. We had a tense phone call, and he just blamed everyone else for his problems. It's never his fault, right? And then we had a holiday family gathering, and my brother didn't even show up. It was so uncomfortable. My parents were worried about him, as usual, but everyone else was just relieved he wasn't there. I know this is going to drag on for a while. I just wish my brother would wake up and realize what he's doing to himself and his kids. Edit. Things got worse after the last update. My brother's ex filed for sole custody, which he's contesting, and now he's involved in a custody battle. His kids are confused and stressed, especially the older one who knows something's up. My parents are upset and considering hiring a private investigator to find out more about why his ex is pushing for sole custody. My brother's ex is also getting a lawyer for child support, which is another headache for everyone involved. Am I the idiot for demanding my husband and his ex actually parent their kid instead of leaving it all to me? This is not a stepmother post about feeling like the stepchild cuts into my time or isn't welcome in my family. Quite the opposite. I consider my stepdaughter my first daughter, but I am getting overwhelmed here. My stepdaughter is 10 years old. She has had braces and now a retainer because of her thumb-sucking issues. She has ADHD and is extremely impulsive. Every week, and I mean every week, I have to remind not only my stepdaughter, but her parents of what she needs to be doing. I'm trying not to have PTSD from infection 19 when she had to stay home with me while I worked from home, but that definitely had an effect on me feeling like I was just a commodity to be used. Her retainer goes back in her mouth as soon as she is done eating or brushing her teeth. She should keep the retainer case near her at all times, and I remind her after every meal she is not allowed any unsupervised electronics after bedtime. She has no impulse control. She should not be allowed to have any makeup products in her room. I have a daughter of my own and a full-time job, and yet I am the only one reminding her of any of these things or putting any of these rules in action. She has only had her retainer for 2 months, and we've already paid for 2 replacements. One that she broke within the first week while playing with it, and one she wrapped in a napkin at a restaurant, and it was lost in the trash, even after I went back to find it during my work hours. The makeup, I'm not even sure when it happened, but she got some for her birthday. I thought she gave me everything, but it turns out she has a few tubes of lip gloss she's been storing in her room and apparently wiped off on a bunch of her other toys. Not only that, but I surprised her with something big last week. I won tickets to opening night of a very popular musical we both love. I'm a huge musical theater geek. It's my second favorite musical of all time, and my stepdaughter has never seen a live musical, so I chose to take her. I told her it was a big deal, and she needed to be on her best behavior because it's a long show, and she'll be getting to bed late that night, and it's a school night. She said no problem. Yesterday, we find out from her mom that she was given unrestricted access to her school iPad and stayed up until 3 a.m. playing on it. Then she had the nerve to ask if she could have dessert last night, and when her dad said no because of the iPad incident, she groaned and rolled her eyes. Am I wrong for thinking this is something her parents should be addressing? I feel like the more I step up, putting rules in place and following up on them, the more I'm the only one doing it. She also routinely comes back from her mother's with injuries. Nothing indicating abuse, more looking like she's not being supervised at all. Her step-siblings running into her on their hoverboards in the basement, on concrete, breaking her wrist while scootering around the neighborhood with no pads or helmet. Her dad is starting to step up because I let him know I've had it, and I will disengage if it feels like I'm being used as a backup parent. And all I'll say is if I had a free ticket to a Broadway musical and I got caught using my iPad until 3 a.m., that trip would be gone. But I'm not her parents. Any advice? Should I just keep doing what I'm doing or step back and let her parents, parent? To add, my stepdaughter's parents are not following through with any rules or guidance with her, and I'm getting frustrated. Should I keep enforcing rules or step back until one of her parents steps up? Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. So ADHD is hereditary. Does dad or mom or both also have ADHD? Is she medicated? She's going to need more supervision and clear boundaries, and I applaud you for doing that. She's craving dopamine, and the iPad gives that to her. I'd think about making the punishment fit the crime. No dessert for being on the iPad doesn't make sense to me. I'd restrict iPad usage more as a result. She cannot regulate herself or hold herself to safe boundaries right now. She needs her parents to help her, and your husband has to step up. Maybe he needs to set himself alarms to check in with her, but he absolutely needs to not make you be the bad guy. Comment 2. As a stepmom who stepped up when needed, and as a mom who co-parented with dad and stepmom, you need to step back from the parenting. You are not her mother or father. They make and enforce rules. You back them up. If you keep stepping in as the enforcer, she will grow hard toward you. Also, as an adult with ADHD and a parent to 3 beautifully brilliant ADHD children, what works for neurotypical people does not work for us. Our brains literally take hours and technology to shut down. If someone took my phone at bedtime, I would lose my mind. My brain has to unwind and decompress for sleep to actually come and visit. Now, for the update. 3 days after my last post, I'm at my in-laws for a family dinner. You know, the usual awkwardness of trying to fit in when everyone knows the family is a mess. The air is thick. Everyone's aware I'm having a tough time with my stepdaughter, and nobody knows what to say. So we just pretend everything's normal. My stepdaughter, who's 10 but acts like she's 15, is there too, of course. During dinner, she casually mentions that she wants to go to this concert next weekend. She's all excited about her friends going and how she can't wait. I'm sitting there, fork halfway to my mouth, and all I can think about is what happened the last time she stayed up late. The kid was up until 3 a.m. playing with her school iPad. My husband, sitting next to me, brushes it off, saying she's got to have fun with her friends. My eye starts twitching a bit. After dinner, I find my stepdaughter in the living room, lounging on the couch, watching videos on her iPad. I remind her about our no electronics rule after a certain hour because, school night and all that. She just rolls her eyes at me. I'm like, yeah, real mature. I go back to the kitchen and my mother-in-law asks if everything's okay. Yeah, just peachy. I spill my guts about how I feel like I'm the only one enforcing these rules and how her mom just lets her do whatever. My mother-in-law casually suggests that maybe I'm being a bit too strict. Oh, great. Just what I needed. I vent about my stepdaughter's mom not caring about her safety, and my mother-in-law thinks I'm the problem. The next day, my stepdaughter comes home with this new makeup kit. She claims her mom let her buy it. I'm like, what the heck? I confront my husband, and he's all indifferent about it, saying it's not a big deal. I mean, come on, this is a huge deal. I'm at my wit's end here. I decide we need to have a serious talk with her mom about the rules. Like, we need to be a united front here. A few nights later, my stepdaughter leaves her retainer on the kitchen counter, and I'm like, here we go again. I remind her again, and she snaps back, saying she doesn't care about the retainer. Okay then. A week later, I find out there's a school event where her mom's going to be there. I decide I'm going to address my concerns directly with her at this event. At the event, the atmosphere is, let's just say, not warm and fuzzy. Her mom has a reputation for being dismissive, so I approach her, thinking we can have a civil conversation about our kid. I mean, it's not that hard, right? After some small talk, I bring up the rules regarding the stepdaughter. Her mom just laughs it off, saying kids will be kids. I nearly lost it. The stepdaughter overhears, and I see her expression change to annoyance. Great, just great. Now, I feel like the bad guy in front of her. I decide to text my husband to meet me in the parking lot after the event. We start talking about how there's no support from him and how we really need to be a united front on this. He's finally getting on board, but he seems super hesitant about confronting his ex-wife. The next day, my stepdaughter comes home with a bruise on her arm. She claims she fell off her bike. I can't even. That evening, I gather the family for a serious discussion about boundaries and expectations. My stepdaughter rolls her eyes, but she finally engages when her dad expresses concern. I'm laying out clear rules about behavior and consequences, and I'm not backing down. She reluctantly agrees, but you can feel the tension. A few days later, her mom calls me, furious about the new rules. I calmly explain the situation to her, emphasizing the need for consistency. I mean, it's not rocket science. We need to be on the same page here. The phone call ends with her threatening to take matters into her own hands. Oh great, just what I needed. I decide to send an email to my husband's lawyer to document all the ongoing issues. It's like I'm building a case against a criminal. Meanwhile, my stepdaughter comes home from school, upset about a rumor that's been going around among her friends. We create a plan for her to confront the rumor at school. I mean, she's got to stand up for herself, right? The next day, she gains the confidence to confront the rumor during lunch, and I'm surprised at how well she handles it. She surprised me too, honestly. I mean, I didn't expect her to stand up for herself like that. Edit. The next day, my stepdaughter comes home upset about the rumor. We create a plan for her to confront the rumor at school. She's got to stand up for herself. She gains the confidence to confront the rumor during lunch, and I'm surprised at how well she handles it. She surprised me. If you like this video, you'll probably like these too. Also, while you're here, please consider subscribing. It's your support that keeps this channel alive and allows me to make better and longer videos. Have a great day.